So the governor issues an emergency public health order suspending Bernalillo County residents from closed or open carry rights for 30 days. So this is 30 days, right?
Right.
We know how the 30-day thing goes, right?
Right. Well, it's going to be one of those things where she's got 30 days. Once the 30 days is up, she can extend it to the next 30 days. And that 30 days comes up, and she can extend it again, like she did with COVID.
Oh, yeah. That was the first thing she said, was that this was just going to be a 30-day precaution, and that's but then it turned into 30, 60, 90, 120 into years.
Right.
That 30-day actually turned into years, and people are going to argue. I mean, this isn't exactly the general topic for, recollecting on what she did during other executive orders, but that one where she seemed to abuse her power was during the whole pandemic. Yeah. Her and Cuomo of New York were just doing this whole pivot chart thing where they were acting as if they were somehow curbing the sickness and all of this shit, and then it just, look what happened. Nothing happened.
Not a darn thing.
Yeah, nothing more than any other states, except we were on lockdown a lot longer with more fierce conditions, as opposed to states that were similar to us and other states that didn't lock down their people at all, really.
Right. Well, that's that overreach. They test the waters and they overreach like that, and if the people allow it, then it happens. You know what I mean? And that's what happened here in this state, is the people didn't fight back like they should have.
Right.
And she overreached. She kept that order in there for almost the whole year.
Oh, it was more than a year. I mean, it started right at the end of 2019, and then into 2020 is when they declared it. It started brewing in 2019. There was little bits of information going around saying this is circulating, but nothing big. By 2020, we were on lockdown all the way until the end of 2021, and into 2022 is when they officially had pulled the last of the regulations.
Right. So then it would have been over a year for sure.
Yeah. So 30 days is not equal. More than a year,
but that's that extension that she keeps talking about, like what she did with the COVID restriction or order, whatever it was. She said 30 days, and then we'll come back and see what the outcome was, and if we have to, we'll extend it. Well, that's exactly what's going to happen here. She's giving it a 30-day trial type deal, and they're going to come back and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, she's going to extend it again and then again. So basically, it just removes your rights. It removes your Second Amendment right. That's my opinion.
No, I mean, I agree with you on it. I mean, it's not something we're just anticipating. It's something we're talking about based off of experience. We lived through it, folks. We got to endure all the wonderful consequences of her choices that were supposedly put in place to save more people than hurt more people. But I don't know. It's kind of weird. I thought about it like in a biblical sense. I was like, well, so God sacrificed his son to save millions. She seems to sacrifice thousands to save a few.
Right.
It just doesn't make any sense. It's weird how her way of thinking is like.
Yeah.
So she did say something interesting that I do think is what kind of sparked this whole thing. I mean, not to mention the fact that she's just basically stomping on the Constitution and our amendments, and just basically. This was her statement. I'll just go. She argued that no Constitution rights were fixed, including her oath. No Constitution right is intended to be absolute. What does that mean to you? What is she saying without directly saying it?
Well, basically what she's saying is that she can change the Constitution and the Bill of Rights at any time of her choosing. She can change that. So you got to remember that back when Obama was president, they talked about a live document. Remember that the Constitution was a live document or a living document, not a live document, a living document, which means that they can change it at any time to their liking. So what this governor is doing, and what we've seen throughout since the Democrats have been here in power, is that they've been doing that. Look at our freedom of speech. It's been the same thing. It's only absolute when it benefits them. But when it doesn't benefit them, it's not absolute. Then they can change it to fit their narrative.
Well, weren't they sworn to uphold the Constitution?
Sure they were. But in today's times, in politics, these politicians, they don't care about holding an oath or upholding an oath. We see it all the time. And this is not just on one side of the party or another side of the party. Both parties kind of do it. I'm not trying to put the blame on one party only, but and both parties do it here and there. But the fact of the matter is that it is absolute. And the only way that it isn't is if you go in there and propose to change something, make an amendment to that Constitution.
Well, she has a habit of this. You know, when we were just talking about that whole COVID incident and you know what she did and how many different types of executive orders she declared. She also, you know, if you remember back, you know, Gallup is one of the cities here in New Mexico. Some of you may have heard of that. Some of you may not know, but it's one of the cities that is more, what are we, more in the western direction of the state. Yeah. So it's closer to a lot of the reservations and such, and it has its own reservation as well, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So she invoked the Riot Control Act to extend her power. Like she closed down all the freeways. Remember, I don't know if you ever went by Gallup, but we did. We went by Gallup during the time, and you could see the police. They had them at every entrance of Gallup, and they just had them locked down. They were like enslaved. They couldn't go nowhere. They couldn't even leave Gallup, much less people go into Gallup at the time. And she pretty much damaged and hurt more people than she helped at the time. That's what I mean by, like, you know, you sacrifice thousands to save a couple. Right. It just doesn't make any sense with her because she seems to have a habit of doing this. She also, she locked down a bunch of businesses and declared what she wanted to be essential and what wasn't going to be essential. You know, obviously food was going to be considered essential. Utilities or stuff like that, probably prescriptions, things of that nature. There's a different list that varies from non-essential to essential. But it was weird because, you know, we thought, okay, you know, this is the first time we're dealing with this. It makes a little bit of sense, you know, if they're going to lock things down to make essential businesses available because we need our resources, right? Right. But what was weird to me is Lily Barak Jewelry and Gifts over in Albuquerque was declared, I guess she went around her own executive order and declared that this one particular business was essential in her eyes for her. But had any of us, other of us had, you know, maybe ordered some jewelry and decided to send some people over to pick it up during her lockdown, we probably would have been penalized or arrested. Right. So it's just the distrust in the way she does things and the history that she has behind her executive orders. You know what I mean? She's always shouting off about how she's helping the people. And these executive orders are in place to keep people from infecting other people or whatever. So, folks, I know this is about the guns, but we're just kind of giving you a little glimpse of what we've experienced with her and how we kind of took it over the years. Right.
Well, the other thing we got to remember, guys, is when COVID came out and she did this public health emergency order, it was meant for COVID. That's what the order was meant for that purpose. Now, she's using this as an order to control the gun deal right now. That doesn't fall under that order. And I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what the DOJ says. I don't care. It just if they want to create an order like this, it should never say anything like public health emergency, because this is not a public health emergency in my eyes.
Well, haven't we been like? What I'm confused about is there all of a sudden now they're making this in. But do you remember the Martins girl?
Yeah.
How she was tortured?
Right.
And it was a bunch of crackheads and drug addicts. Her mom and the other boyfriend, they were all on drugs, and they burned her body and cut her up and did all this crazy stuff to her. And it was a big issue. Like, I remember going up to the parks where they were doing memorials, not the actual service, but they were basically allowing people to come and pay their respects. And that was a huge deal. There was thousands and thousands of people, and nothing was said by her then. Right. There was no health order declared by our acting governor at the time or anything of that nature. So I'm confused as to why all of a sudden today, or not today, actually, folks, this was done 2 days ago when she declared the executive order. Right. But why all of a sudden now it means something? Like, what's the difference between all the segregated incidents that have been happening? It's no secret. New Mexico, we're a legal state first off for cannabis. I mean, we're a cannabis-friendly state, and that's not something that I'm really like looking at. But there's been a little or a bigger issue with chemicalized drugs for years now that have caused many different incidents that we've seen that have been horrific. Right. Remember when that kid shot, and this is something that I would think would be something to invoke something of this nature. But remember, he shot and killed his whole family with an AR, like 5 of them. Yeah. And what happened then? I don't even know if she was in office then, but where was the worry then?
Right. Well, let's be honest with ourselves, guys. Everybody out there, let's just be honest. This has nothing to do with the public health emergency. This has to do with a governor who wants to take away the guns and take away your rights to guns in this state. That's the issue at hand. And if we don't get this under control, if we don't fight back against this, it will happen. If we allow her to continue doing what she's doing now, this will happen.
Remember, folks, New Mexico Constitution, Article 2, Bill of Rights, no law shall abridge the right of the citizen to keep and bear arms for security and defense.
Right.
Also, no municipality or county shall regulate in any way an incident of the right to keep and bear arms. And this was amended back in 1971 as well as 1986.
Right.
So if it was that easy to change things, don't you think we'd see a laundry list of amendments?
Definitely. See, the other thing we got to remember, guys, is this is happening in New Mexico's largest city. And it so happens that this city is plagued with violence. And I'm not just saying violence and guns, and there's a lot of violence in Albuquerque right now. Bernalillo County is pretty bad when it comes to violence. The fact of the matter is, we have to also remember that in the past, this state got together with the Department of Justice, the FBI, and have tied the hands of these officers. So a lot of times these officers can't go out there and do their job because there's too many things that there's too many protocols they got to follow now. They got a group of people that are not elected by the residents of New Mexico that are telling these police officers that they got to do it this way now. So this is a way for her to be able to get her hands in there and and be able to control something and see how far she can go with it. That's where we're at right now. So folks, you got to look at this and say, okay, wait a minute here. Are you willing to give up your rights? Because at this point in time, that's what's happening. She's taking the right to carry away from you.
Oh, that's exactly what she's doing. You know what the problem is to me? Is that our government allowed the break. Okay, so this is how it is. If the government is allowed to break the law during emergencies, they'll create emergencies to break the law.
Exactly.
Correct? Doesn't that seem realistic?
Right.
That's what, I don't know. The reason I say these things is it just doesn't add up. Do you guys remember during the Christmas party when Michelle Lujan dumped a bottle of water on one of her staffers' crotch and then slapped it and grabbed his crotch in front of everyone? And then it became an issue, and there was a lawsuit filed against her, and she had to settle for the dollar amount of $62,500 eventually. So these are the types of things that make us think twice about trusting this lady. We're not here to defamate her character. We're just spitting information that's we've received and information that we've experienced with this lady that isn't adding up to this. It's obvious that this is, what was it, like 3 months ago she was talking about changing gun laws regarding assault weapons and stuff. This isn't something new with her.
Well, that was something she ran on. Remember that?
Yeah.
That she ran on gun control. She ran on that. Besides the other Democrat talking points, abortion, all that other stuff. But gun control was one of her big things.
Well, I mean, not to cut you off or anything, I don't understand how they're helping us with this executive order when they're not, like Mayor Keller. What has he done for his city? He's the mayor. Right. Mayor Keller is the mayor of Albuquerque, right, folks? He's the mayor that's in charge of, trying to take care of his city, doing things to help control the drug issue along with crimes and stuff. But we have property crimes are through the roof.
Right.
I think we're in the top 3 now for the most murders or homicides. Once again, we're definitely still sitting at the bottom of the educational poll. Right. So, where there's poverty, there's crime. Right. And if you're not doing anything to change your city, why would you try? So basically, they create the issues that create the crime that allows them to invoke these executive orders to turn around and take away our rights, which then jeopardizes the law-abiding citizens. So basically, Richard, you're not allowed to carry a firearm in Albuquerque for the next 30 days to 2 years or for eternity. Let's just put it that way. We're not going to call it 30 days because I doubt this is a 30-day thing at all. Right. But so you're on your way over to Red Lobster with your wife to go eat, and this is in place, right? So you didn't bring your gun. There's two different sides of this story. There's two scenarios. You go in, you're walking from your car to the inside of Red Lobster. A man runs up on you and your wife, pulls out a gun, which, you know, I thought he was not supposed to have a gun because there's a executive order in place, right?
Right.
So shouldn't he not have the gun? Right?
Well,
no, I mean, seriously. I mean, if they're so prone to this decision of taking away our rights to bear arms, then everyone's got to follow it, right?
Well, all joking aside, the governor herself said, she said in a briefing herself that the legal gun owners are not responsible. They're not the ones that we're really worried about.
So then he robs you and then he shoots you and kills you in front of your wife.
Right.
So that's the first scenario. But he was supposed to follow that mandate because, you know.
Yeah.
So would it have been easier? My point is it would have been easier for you to just not comply and to carry your gun and to shoot this guy and kill him in self-defense to your family and take on whatever misdemeanor charge or whatever it is. I'm not sure what the penalty is besides the $5,000. I looked briefly into it. There's like, you know, they can try to do something to you, but it's not anything with regard to a felony.
Yeah, right.
Then it is to comply. So my point is, folks, is I wouldn't comply. Don't comply to these tyrannical dictators, because that's what she's trying to do. She's like a weird feminist mom who's trying to punish all her children, which I definitely wouldn't want to be her children, much less her stepchild, under these types of conditions. But that's the point I'm saying, is she's now sacrificing the innocence of people. You just died in front of your wife. She may have gotten killed too, which adds up a longer laundry list of deaths and crimes being committed than it would have had you had your gun that day, right?
Well,
so who's she protecting, honestly?
Honestly, guy, this is not about protection of anybody.
Exactly. Right?
This is to your point, and this is to the point that he's trying to make to you people out there, is that this is not about catching the criminal. It's about trying to strap down the people that are doing it legally. She came in as a governor saying that she was going to do gun control, and she has to complete that. That's one of her main things. If she doesn't do that, then she's a failed governor in her eyes. So she has to do that.
She's already failed.
Well, she's already a failed governor.
Well, I mean, not in her eyes, because, you know, constitutions are not absolute in her eyes. So, I mean, that's where she...
So in my eyes, she's a failed governor. But the fact of the matter is that if we allow her to do what she's doing, then she gains that power, and we give her that power to do what. So she takes your guns this time. What happens the next time? What does she take next? And then the next time after that, and the time after that, and the time after that. Folks, we got to look at this in a bigger perspective. We got to look at it for the future. Our kids are going to have to deal with this.
Well, they didn't clean up the city. They created the mess. And now they're trying to justify putting us all in jeopardy to not fix it and say they're fixing it.
Right.
What is this going to do in 30 days? What is this? No, seriously, what does this do for us in 30 days along with the criminals? What is her goal here? Because, you know, when that guy shot and did a drive-by on that kid, it was illegal to murder someone. Right. But what did he do? Right. He shot and murdered someone. Chances are the gun was stolen. He was a convicted felon in possession of a firearm, right?
Right.
And they didn't. So now instead of just being victimized by the people, she's allowing them to basically get a pass to kill and commit crimes with no repercussions at all. And so the numbers are, I don't know, I think the numbers are going to go up even worse.
Well, definitely they will. We are, first and foremost, we are a soft on crime state. These juvenile, and look, let's not put any cherries on top of this thing. Juveniles are a big problem in this state. Juveniles are committing a lot of these crimes. And the deal is here is that we got to look at the laws and adjust these laws to fit the crime. So when these juveniles are committing these crimes, we can't just put them in a juvie detention center or send them home on probation. They gotta pay a price.
Well, it's not even that. It all boils right back to the parents.
Well,
the parents, the mentality here in New Mexico is like this gang mentality.
Right.
It's like, oh, you got to be offended. You got to be thug-like mentality. Anytime anything happens, not to mention the poverty. Most of these parents don't have. They're just like their kids. Yeah. They raise an ideal image of themselves.
Right.
The kids weren't raised correctly. They lived in poor conditions. They weren't made to go to school. The educational system just basically keeps them there for attendance purposes and to get paid, and that's it. Not speaking on all the teachers, but there's a lot of bad, like, guys, when I'm saying stuff like this, I'm not just generalizing everyone, but I'm going based off of the experience that I've seen with my own kids and a lot of other kids. And then these kids, you know, they don't respect anything. Poverty just like when you're in poverty-ridden conditions, do you have a lot of time to go out and try to make a difference and do research and do things that would make the quality of life better? Or usually are you angered and you're struggling and every day you wake up trying to figure out how to hustle and scheme up your next bag of ramen noodles or your next $5 for your pack of smokes? Right. Do you really become an A-plus citizen that wants to go out and help, you know, take care of society and become a reflection of what a real society should look like?
Right. Well, no. And see the governor and our, see, this is another problem we have in this state is we're a one rule party here in this state. The Democrats rule everything in this state. And that is bad for policies. That's bad for government. And our government now, they believe that if you're committing a crime, you're okay to go. You're okay. Do what you do. It's the innocent people out there.
Like you said, they have all the officers' hands tied. But then again, let's not give the officers too much credibility. Most of them are corrupt.
No.
And then, like, if you look at the round table that she was sitting at the other day when she declared this executive order, she was sitting next to state police and sheriffs. Yeah. Don't sheriffs have jurisdiction to arrest an acting governor if she commits crimes against the Constitution and against citizens? I mean, at what point can we arrest her?
Well, the thing is
without having to vote on this or anything. That's something I'm not educated on, so I'm trying to figure out. Like, doesn't the sheriff have jurisdiction to arrest her if she's not upholding the Constitution? Because you can't just let them continue.
The problem is, Darren, is that in this state, as I said just a few minutes ago, it's the majority of the politicians here are Democrat. So even if you did arrest her, what's going to happen?
She'll be released.
She'll be released.
Like all the other criminals.
She probably wouldn't even be arrested. They'd probably just pull her out there, just take a couple pictures of her and tell her, okay, go home. We have the problem in this state.
Go back to work, more like it.
Right. The problem in this state right now is that these politicians do not want to correct the bottom line problems. They just want to put sugar on top and say, okay, it's done for now. But they're not doing us any favors. They haven't done us any favors. This governor's not doing you guys any favors out there. She just tied your hands. You can't even go to. I've been to Albuquerque many a times, and I've gone into the Coronado Mall there, and seen people running out with handfuls of clothes, and we have to stand by there and watch that.
Well, the police aren't doing nothing. It's not only that they have their hands tied. What did you tell me happened in Bernalillo the other day with some pet owner on the way to
Yeah. Well, I mean, and this is where I agree with you 100% that we can't sit there and say, oh, all cops are good, because we just had an incident in Bernalillo County where a family was stopped by an officer who had I don't know if he had a chip on his shoulder or if he thought he was above the law or what he was doing. He didn't investigate what was going on with that family, pulled them out of their vehicles in the middle of the day, hotter than heck, without no shoes on, made them kneel down on the street there, arrested a juvenile, all because they were rushing to get their dog to the veterinarian because it had been run over. The cop never asked one question. He just pulled him out of there and handcuffed him and wanted to arrest him.
Well, you had him at gunpoint, right?
Yeah, he had him at gunpoint.
I seen a clip where they had the guy barefooted on the hot concrete, burning on his knees. They had no care in the world about the dying animal and just basically treated them like third world country criminals.
Right. So I don't.
So is that the trust we should have in our
and that's what I'm saying.
Judicial system and our law-abiding officers?
That's what I'm saying. I agree with you 100%. Is that we can't sit here and say that every officer in this state, and I'm not. You know what? There are a lot of good officers out there, but I'm not saying that you have the right to go out there and do what those officers are doing, or if an officer's doing that kind of stuff. Well, he doesn't have that right.
Don't forget James Boyd. You remember James Boyd in the foothills of the East Mountains,
right?
Where he was way away from the officer. It was a good, reasonable distance to not feel like your life was in immediate danger. And they wanted to pull his hands out of his pocket. He pulled out his little buck knife, was kind of like moving it back and forth, standing in place, not charging or doing anything. What did they do? They executed him in front of everyone.
Yeah.
This is why... And even when their hands weren't tied, what were they out there doing? Remember, let's not forget, the police were out there executing people left and right. Beating down people. You know, it looked like a modern day daily Rodney King going on over here. So then when their hands were tied, then they just basically were prevented from harming more of the citizens than they were helping. And now it's just basically all thrown into our own pocket. We got to fend for ourselves.
We are not going to sit here and let this government take our guns. we have a constitutional right
or
to
restrict
carry those,
us from
or
being able to
restrict us from
carry
being-
them and
right.
protect ourselves. She hasn't taken them yet, but this is what leads to that eventually.
Right.
I mean, there's never been a time where it's not easy to go gun grabbing, so I doubt they're just going to show up to people's houses and start gun grabbing, but they will eliminate ammunition, parts to firearms, and regulate it to death to where it's just, you can't even carry anyway.
Right.
But I don't think a lot of people are listening. I don't know. My point is this. If our Constitution is absolute and not concrete, then so are the laws behind them.
Right.
So we don't have to follow the laws.
Right.
So as much as she didn't have to follow the Constitution for us to bear open or concealed carry in public in a city that it's allowed with permits or without, you don't have to have a permit to carry open. You do have to have a permit in the state of Mexico to carry concealed, just for the record, for those that didn't know.
Right.
But I mean, if you can just come to the table and go ahead and just basically amend the law or the Constitution in your own sense, you know, basically you just make that executive order, which you're not allowed to. I mean, I'm not a scholar or a lawyer, but I've been watching a lot of different responses from lawyers and scholars and people, and it doesn't appear that she had the right to do this at all.
No.
So why should I follow the law?
Well, look, we even seen it over the weekend. We seen a Democrat politician out of California came out and said the governor did the wrong thing there. She should have never. She doesn't have the right to do that. Basically.
Well, look at even David Hogg,
right?
That little weasel
Right.
that was wanting to gun grab and do all this stuff and
Right.
help the woke movement move. Even came out, which was startling. No one really
Right.
listens or pays any mind to him, but just the fact that extremist,
Right.
programmed kid individual was even against what she did.
So I go back to my point that I was making at the beginning of the program is this is nothing more than a way to try to see how far they can go with about grabbing guns. That's where I think.
What is
we're
the
headed.
point though behind it all, Richard? I mean, grabbing guns has been a theory and a terminology that's been used by many people, avid gun owners and people that are anti-gun owners.
Right.
What is the point behind gun grabbing? Is it really the fact that there's crimes being committed? Or is it boiled down to a point of control?
No.
Is there an agenda? I mean, let's not all these things that people call conspiracy theories in the last 10, 15 years are not conspiracy theories anymore. They happen.
Folks, let's not sugarcoat this. She's trying to better her ambitions, her political ambitions for the future. If she becomes a governor that grabs everybody's guns,
But for what?
What do you think people are going to do?
Our voters are already imbeciles. The ones that voted for her are imbeciles. They vote for her and then she does this and then they cry about it. What has she done? Where are the merits in her? What has she done? Well, I mean, if everything that she does is so straight-lined and so effective, then why are we in worse conditions than most states are, from education all the way down to crimes, murder, all of it, housing? I mean,
that's all a form of. I mean, most people are going to say, "Well, that's your opinion."
No, it's not my opinion, folks. Take a look around. If you live in New
right.
Mexico, do your research. This isn't something I just pulled out of my ass today.
Right.
This is something that I can probably back up.
Just look around. Just look, guys. Look, guys. Just look at your city there in Bernalillo County. Just look at Albuquerque. Look at that.
Again, if you try to take our
So think about that. Think about how Albuquerque looked 4 years ago, or the years that before she became governor, to now. That should tell you something. But the people of this state are committed to the Democrat Party. We've seen it. We've seen it happen this last election. It was a drown out for the Republicans, and the Democrats took over everything. So the fact of the matter is, in my opinion, all she's trying to do is get a bit better political picture on herself, so that she looks better.
For who though? Because I never really looked it up to her to begin with, or most
Right.
people. I don't know. I've gone around and I haven't been biased about your political view from another person's political view from right to left. But I just like Biden, I haven't gotten any real, positive feedback on her or him or any of them for that matter. And, they can be mad at me. I don't care. You guys can try to shut me down. I don't really give a shit.
Right.
Whatever. Do your thing. But anyways, we're going to speak the truth. I'm tired of sitting around and pretending like everything's okay and abiding by all these consequential things that just basically ruin us more than they help us. I mean, come on, the whole COVID lockdown, you destroyed more lives than you saved.
Right.
You killed and destroyed far more people's lives, far more suicides were committed than people's lives were saved by giving them this vaccine that no one really knows.
Right.
I mean, no one really knows. Like, there's not like Come on, they act like we should all just be scientists and know what type of compounds are in things like this. This is just an example of where we're at today. Nothing has changed. Nothing has gotten better. Nothing is getting better.
Right.
So the policies and the laws being put in place, the executive orders and amendments are not working. So why do we keep doing and allowing the same thing, expecting different results, folks? It doesn't make any sense.
1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearm.
So that's our point. That's our point, folks. Get out there, educate yourself on what's really going on out there. Figure out what you need to do to protect yourself. Figure out what you need to do to get your people, your family back on its feet. Look at the economy. Look at everything that's going on around us. Look at what you're paying for groceries. Look what you're paying for gas. Look, these are all
the new norm. I heard is $4 a gallon now.
Yeah.
I don't. That we'll probably never see it below $4 anymore.
Right.
$4 is the new low, folks.
Right. So we got a governor right now that's she's testing the waters right now, folks. That's what she's doing. She's testing the waters. And if she gets what she wants out of this, what's next? Because they've already taken our freedom of speech. Remember that. They're taking that little by little. So it's only absolute, like I said earlier, it's only absolute to them.
Well, you can thank all the social networks. They helped to destroy our freedom of speech, because if it was free and it was actually able to circulate the way it would, we wouldn't be censored and shadow banned so much the way we've been. So you can thank those companies along with our government for making that possible.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I watched the news this morning, and I watched it for this purpose, to see what the top stories were going to be. I thought maybe this would be a top story. You know what? It took 3 segments of the news for them to bring this subject up. 3 segments. They went from the morning, from when they started, to the second segment. Nothing came through. The third segment is when it came through.
Well, we all know KOAT7, one of our liberal news companies here, are programmed to stand by Michelle Grisham, Lujan, Biden, and all of them. Right. They're right in with the program's narrative. Right. So that they do whatever it is that needs to be said. They all coordinate together. So don't trust the news, folks. I mean, that was a given, but this is what they do to help change the minds of others and put us in that trance to gain control and power.
But the biggest thing right now, guys, is just remember what she said in that briefing. She said it's not the responsible gun owners that they're worried about. Well, isn't this targeting the responsible gun owners? That should tell you something. Look at her words. Take her words in.
Well, wait, if she's not worried about the responsible gun owners, then what was she referring to? I'm not playing stupid, really.
Well, that's a good question. I don't know, because the
she's
law.
Saying the criminals in possession of guns.
Well, what she's saying is, well,
the drug addicts. I mean, I don't know.
The way I take it is that, like, anybody that has a concealed carry or open carry, that they're not responsible. That they're not the responsible ones.
Was it a concealed responsible gun owner that shot the 11-year-old and fled the scene?
Well, that's the question, guys, and that's what we got to keep looking at. That's the questions we got to keep asking her. Is why are you targeting us then?
Where are all the drug rehabs? Where are all the treatment programs to help these people? What happened to charter and all these group homes and different things that we used to fund in order to try to help? I mean, it wasn't always accurate. It didn't always 100% change people's minds and treat people, but where are they anymore?
Well, it's
what do they do with the mentally ill anymore when they get, if they have an outburst, they get taken to what? The hospital?
Right.
And then the hospital basically says, "Oh, you're not insured. Take his fucking vitals," and then kick him back out on the street.
Right.
There's no program. There's nothing in place. This state is a fucking wreck.
Right.
All the way around.
Right.
There's a lot of beautiful people here. There's a lot of beautiful landmarks. There's a lot of great food, a lot of caring, family-oriented people, but there's a lot more evil happening than there is good.
Right.
And our politicians aren't doing shit. Let's take a quick look real quick. Folks, let's just look at some highlights of this. So if you're not sure who Grisham Lujan is, Michelle Grisham Lujan, the New Mexico governor, or you haven't heard of this is the first, and you just happen to scroll to our video and see our thumbnail and you're like lost to this. This is our governor, and here's some of the little highlights and stuff that she had mentioned.
Involve themselves in the drafting of this public health order and are likely not to agree with the totality of the first initial steps.
But said it is just a first step and what will be a coordinated effort.
Exactly. That was my point. So this was supposed to be 30 days, but why even implement the 30 days if this is just a first step. And people are going to say, oh, no, it's just the first step of many different things and decisions that we're going to try to do to make things better for our citizens. No, it's not. Come on, bro. I was born at night, but not last night. Were you born last night or something? All right. I just wanted to clarify that for the people.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, she made it very clear that the Constitution is not concrete and that it's absolute. Let's see. You know what? I want to hear that response from her. Let me pull something up here, folks. Bear with me for a second here. All right, let's go to this next clip. So let's hear. I don't know. It's just the way she says it. It's like, well, this is a law, but I feel like this shouldn't be a law, so we're going to just go with this type mentality. I don't know. Let's look at this and let's listen to what she said on this one, folks.
You took an oath to the Constitution. Isn't it unconstitutional to say you cannot exercise your carry license?
With one exception, and that is if there's an emergency, and I've declared an emergency for a temporary amount of time, I can invoke additional powers. No constitutional right, in my view, including my oath, is intended to be absolute. There are restrictions on free speech. There are restrictions on my freedoms.
There you go, folks. There you go. Exactly what we've been talking about.
Oops, sorry, folks. Getting a little anxious over here.
So there it is. There it is. You just proved our point, man. You just proved our point.
Well, so I wanted to follow up as well to see how people are taking this. I mean, she made a point. She declared an executive order. She made it clear on what her stipulations were of the executive order and what counties and who it's affecting and yada, 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 the whole line. So, you know, there's a lot of times when these situations happen, we read through things, we look at different responses, and I see the same old, it seems like a corny response. Everyone needs to wake up. Wake up and see what's going on. All right, we're fucking awake, but what are we doing? Nothing. We went right back to sleep again. When does that become effective? Everyone's always, the same people that are talking that we should do something are the same ones that aren't doing stuff that are saying wake up and do something.
Right.
So let's take a quick look. And when you watch this clip, folks, I want you to pay close particular attention to the overall body stance and what people are doing and what they're saying. But shortly, I think it was the next day, after she declared the executive order, there was a rally that was assembled. And of course, you know, that was expected. You know, we're not going to just have these things happen and then not have any type of feedback from it. But let's take a look at this and see what we're dealing with here on this one too.
Crime is riddled, and all we want to do.
Downtown Albuquerque, folks. Same city the executive order was declared.
Our communities.
Looks like everyone's complying. Where's all the police at? The ones that are supposed to be stopping all the crime to begin with, if this is such a big crime.
She thinks she has the right to take away my freedom to protect my community. I don't think so. This will not stand. We will not comply.
Exactly.
That's it. That's it.
That's our message today, folks, is don't comply.
Right.
I mean, I guess that puts you in the channel of being a criminal. But then again, does that really hurt us? I mean, I guess it's easier to be a criminal anymore nowadays than it is to be a law-abiding citizen.
Right.
So where does it really matter anymore?
Right.
Because if you're a law-abiding citizen, you get your rights taken away and be put in a worse position that jeopardizes your overall health and your safety within the community of New Mexico. But if you don't comply, then you're on the criminal side and you get catered to more, and life's just a lot easier, right? So I think we should just all be criminals at this point, correct? Is that? I don't know. I'm confused. I'm trying to figure this out.
Well, basically what she's doing is she's making criminals out of everybody. Everybody becomes a criminal at that point, right?
Right.
Because if she takes that right away from you and you carry that weapon, you're a criminal.
But what were they, like anything that they boost about when they're saying, oh, this happened and we're going to do this and we're putting officers on the line and this and that and the other. I'm not against those people there. I'm with them 100%. But where were the officers to stop them? Come on. There was a bunch of people with assault weapons everywhere.
But let's be serious about this.
No, I'm being serious about this. This is sarcasm in a serious manner. It's to my point.
Quite seriously, look. These officers don't get paid enough to go out there and deal with the mess that she just put together, that she made. They ain't gonna go put their lives on the line to go take a few guns away from a few people that are having a rally there.
State police or not?
They're not. I mean, I wouldn't. If I was a police officer, I'd tell you, you're crazy, lady. You do it.
So if you're, what do you, as an individual gun owner, What are you doing if you're in Albuquerque and you're carrying your rifle during these times we're not complying and they approach you? What are you telling them?
Well, it's my right.
1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearm.
Right.
That's right, baby.
Right.
Alex Jones.
Right.
No, I'm not a fucking foil wearing, helmet hat wearing person, but I agree with it. I
Right.
mean,
Well,
let's see what happens. Roll it on out.
Well,
Come and try to take them. Let's see what happens.
Let's be really. If she really wants to be serious about the crime in Albuquerque and Bernalillo County, let's have a serious conversation about that. Let's get these prosecutors and these judges that are soft on crime out of there. Have them do their jobs if they're going to stay in there. Let's get these officers to do their jobs, not abuse people, but go out there and do their jobs. That's what needs to happen.
But they won't. They're not trained right.
Well, no, they're not.
It's
Hell,
very
they're not.
little to become an officer.
Right.
The boot camp, or what is it? Like what do they call it? Where you go to
Yeah,
train?
I
I don't know why the fuck I can't think of the terminology. It's like a fucking kindergarten right now. But yeah, so
But that's to your point
But
earlier.
the conditions, though, in order to become an officer, are nothing. And then most of these officers are kids anyway.
Right. Right.
Who basically just cater to people they like or their own family members and stuff. They're not really upholding the law.
Well,
I mean, come on, folks. If you know me, go check out my other channel, Review It TV, by the way, and check out my video of my experience with the state police. The same ones that are going to uphold the Constitution or the broken Constitution of the executive order by her and make it a safer place for us and see how safe they are. I'm sorry, but I just don't. I'm not like F the police. I'm not like NWA over here. Nothing.
Right.
But I just don't. I feel like, yeah, we have to take things into our own hands and protect ourselves and make the valid decision whether our government superiors are doing what's for our best interest or if they're basically setting the stage for our failure so they can get their pockets deeper. It's not. Guys, we're not over our heads in this. This is stuff that's going on all over the country. This isn't just New Mexico. There's other states like this that have already tried it. Look, New York tried it. It was shot down by the Supreme Court too.
Right.
They attempted this on several occasions. It didn't work. So this is probably going to end up going to the Supreme Court. I don't think there's anything that's going to come to her. I don't think any of the lawsuits are going to affect her. I doubt she'll be taken out of her position. Or anything will come. So this is why she's doing this, because it's not a single-handed decision she's making. She's got the whole party behind her, helping her. This was well planned. And they create the anarchy that constitutes the justification of implementing the laws to gain control and enslave their citizens. It happens all around the world. It's happened many of times. I mean, if you want something done, you've got to create the anarchy so you can go out there and do what you got to do to justify it so you don't look like a dictator or some type of obstructionist or some type of, I don't know, crazy fucking loonball.
Right. Well, the thing, like I said, is if we don't get control of this, what's the next step? What's the next thing? Where do we go from here? That's my question. If we allow this to happen and if this continues, then what's next? Because this governor's not going to stop. We already know that. She's
definitely a poster child or the test baby right now. She's trying to strut her feathers in the hands of fellow politicians and not in the best interest of her people.
Again, I go back to what I was saying earlier is that her political ambitions are big. We know that, and she makes no what do you call it about putting that out there? You know what I mean? Her ambitions are big. So if she can get this done. What do you think that does to her with the Democrat Party? It just pushes her way up there.
Causes a revolution.
Well, it will cause a revolution, but for her, it doesn't matter. She don't care. Do you really honestly think that she cared about that 11-year? Dude, we've been talking about crime since we started this podcast this morning. What has been done? Where's the results? That poor girl that we talked about earlier got chopped up, burnt, raped, and those two people were out. The guy who did it to her was out on an ankle bracelet deal around other children. So that tells you where the state of New Mexico is. The laws have to be revisited. The fact of the matter is, guys, when we have a one rule party in a state like New Mexico, this is the stuff that happens. And until we get rid of that, until we make it either a split party or we make it where we get a party that believes in the laws, we are going to end up in situations like this all the time.
That's all she wrote, folks. Let us know your feedback, comments. Let us know how you feel, what's going on in your state. If you have any questions that we may be able to answer that you're not sure about off of anything you've seen today, great. Shoot us a comment, like I said. Please subscribe or consider subscribing to the channel. Let's help build this army. We'll only get better, folks. You know, within the podcast, you know, the way that we, you know, present our rhetoric and our podcast is going to be up to how our fans basically interact with us and how they support the channel. Right. We want this to move forward. We want to educate ourselves. We want to do better and bigger things for society. This isn't for views. This isn't for money. We don't get paid. Right. All of this was not paid by any social network or anything. This was all done because of our dedication to want to not only educate ourselves and others, but to just make society a better place, because we can't depend on any of our superior leaders or our government politicians or any officials. They've proven that this administration's a train wreck and it's about to derail.
That's it. You got it.
Well, anyways, bigger perspective. Peace. We will see you guys.
Raise your right hand. I, Michelle Lujan Grisham.
I, Michelle Lujan Grisham.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
To support the Constitution of the United States.
To support the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution and the laws of the state of New Mexico.
And the Constitution and the laws of the state of New Mexico.
And that I will faithfully and impartially.
And that I will faithfully and impartially.
Discharge the duties.
Discharge the duties.
Of the office of governor.
Of the office of governor.
On which I am about to enter.
Of which I am about to enter.
To the best of my ability.
To the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Governor.
So effective immediately, no person other than a law enforcement officer or licensed security officer shall possess a firearm, either openly or concealed. We're suspending open and concealed carry.
Will commence again if you try to take our firearms.